What is going on, Guardians? Ember here with another one for you. Today, I'm finishing off my set of 3 builds for each class with the Titans. I have both my Hunter and Warlock builds already completed, which I'll link up at the top right now. And now that we have all those out and we actually have our hands on Onslaught, I wanted to finish off these builds with the Titans, and let me tell you, I've been having a ton of fun. Let me know what your favorite part about playing Onslaught is down in the comment section below. And like my last 2 videos, I will not be doing a full, complete breakdown as I usually do for my build videos. We're going to be going over what makes these builds fantastic and some of just like the linchpins that help them work better. But otherwise, I'll be putting the dim link in the comment section down below for all these videos. Feel free to check them out and let me know which ones you're interested in using. And now that we have that all out of the way, let's get to it. And I'm sure you've seen from the background gameplay so far, our first build we're going to be going into is a Pyrogale gauntlets with a specific focus on slamming those consecration hammers down as much as possible. And let me tell you, I love this build. It's actually incredibly powerful. I haven't really used it too much in the past. I actually had to go and get the gauntlets for this build, and I mean, I'm so not disappointed at all. I mean, really, if you do not have these gauntlets, go and get them right now. What are you doing? I really wish I would have been more on top of it lately, but I mean, I'm definitely going to keep this build right at the top of my list anytime I'm playing Titan and need something solar. And the best part about this build is how I have it set up. You really don't need to worry about a whole lot. All you need to do is slam those hammers, pick up those orbs, maybe get a couple of kills with either a stasis weapon or a solar weapon like Prometheus Lens, which I have on this build, and grab another orb. Right now I have our armor charge not decaying at all, and we have a bunch of different things, essentially giving our melee back immediately, that melee ability, so you can use tons and tons of consecrations all over the map, make a million fire cyclones, literally a million. And let me tell you, this build has everything. Massive boss damage from the super. We're going to be using our melee abilities to get a huge amount of super energy, since we're going to be running a lot of those hands-on mods, so we get a lot of our energy back, and everything's going to be just igniting all over the place. And beyond having the melee kickstart and a very easy way to get 4 stacks of armor charge that do not decay at all, once we get about 50 or 60% of our melee energy back just for doing nothing besides hitting that consecration slam, as long as you have an ally near you, you're going to be getting a 500% melee ability regen, which is insane. You're going to be doing so many slams, it'll make your head spin. You basically get it back instantly just about every single time. And this build is fantastic for any of the maps that have choke points that all the enemies have to run through. Something like Moth Yards, they definitely have choke points, but it's a little bit more open and you might have to be a little bit more tactical about where you're throwing your consecrations down. But if you're at somewhere like Midtown, tons of hallways all over the place, you're just going to be raining mayhem down on all of the enemies around you. And really, this build just speaks for itself. So go ahead and try it, and let's move on to our next build. I'm very excited about this one as well. Next up, we have a Severance Enclosure build, and we're going to be pairing it with Banner of War and the Into the Fray Titan Strand aspects. And this gives us a ton of ways to literally set off a nuke in the middle of enemy spawns. With the Titan melee ability having 3 charges, makes this build absolutely perfect. And even if you don't have any of your 3 charges, which we're building very heavily into having our 3 charges, so that probably won't happen too often, you can still throw a finisher out there and do the exact same thing for free.
It's free real estate.
This build is using some fragments that give us woven mail, and whenever we have woven mail, giving us the ability to create tangles when we kill enemies and give us massive melee energy regen. The whole goal of this build is to punch absolutely everything and anything within punching range. We want to use the artifact fragment that gives us unraveling rounds for our Strand weapons, and Definitely also pair that with the fragment that combines the solar and strand siphons together. So you can use something like a fusion rifle, maybe even like I have here, the Lament, and just pop off, throw out tons of orbs, get that armor charge so you can keep all of your abilities flowing nicely. And then when you're unraveling targets and hit them with a Severance Enclosure explosion, you're going to be flinging those unraveling missiles all over the place and unraveling all the rest of the enemies around you. And the super is no slouch either. I mean, when you run into those waves that have tons and tons of ogres all over the place like this one, I mean, it just makes pretty quick work of them. We're capturing this zone while we're just taking out this ogre, and you can take them down to next to no health. And since it's a yellow bar, when you do the finisher on that, that does extra damage, more damage than it would if you just hit the regular melee on top of them. So you want to make sure you prioritize doing finishers on those larger targets for larger explosions. Also, finishers upgrade the explosion level. If you didn't know that, if you hit a miner with the melee, it's going to actually do less damage than if you hit them with a finisher. So if you have the option, if you're just kind of running around, you just see one you can hit a quick finisher on right away, go ahead and do that, because it's essentially free extra damage. And again, this build is one that speaks for itself in its power, so let's go ahead and move on to the next build. Alright, and the final build we have up is a Doom Fang Pauldrons build, and that's right, free-to-play players can use this build. I am pairing it here with the Collective Obligation, which free-to-play players will not be able to get, unfortunately, as it is a raid exotic. However, there are many, many amazing void weapons that we're getting with the Brave Arsenal here, such as the Recluse and Elsie's Rifle. I would use either of these weapons with this build and definitely would have no problems whatsoever. However, using the Collective Obligation here is going to be super, super powerful with this build, since because we have it set up where we're going to be able to leech all 3 of the void debuffs off of 1 grenade, we're just going to be chewing through hordes of enemies with it, and almost on its own, it's a powerhouse in and of itself. And I say that the Collective Obligation is not required here because we're using the Doomfang Pauldrons, and when you get a melee kill with your powered melee ability, that shield throw that you have, you're going to instantly get a ×4 void weapon surge. And if you do not have your void melee ability, just getting 4 kills will ramp up your void weapon damage surge to the point where you can continue to build that all the way up to ×4 as well. So that's going to give you a 25% damage bonus with your void weapons here. And void is crazy strong, always has been, specifically because of Devour. And since they've let all of the classes partake in Devour, not just Warlocks anymore, this makes basically any void build incredibly powerful, and the survivability is something seriously not to be doubted. And pairing the Collective Obligation with this void weapon surge is so incredibly strong. When you get your Void Leech going and you're suppressing all the enemies so that they can't shoot at you, you're making them all volatile so they're all exploding into each other and spreading that around, and you're weakening all of them so that you and your allies can deal far more damage to them while you're shooting your Collective Obligation, and then you can re-leech all of these debuffs off of some yellow or orange bar enemy that you left alive for your Void Leech once it runs out. And it just makes for such an incredibly powerful combination. Like, you really can do some incredibly strong stuff here. Now let's talk really quickly about free-to-play players that might not be able to grab Collective Obligation. What I would do here is I would grab a void weapon that would have something like a repulsor brace and volatile rounds combination, and I'll tell you why. If you swap out the Echo of Persistence for the Echo of Vigilance, whenever you go into low health and get a kill, you will get an overshield. And we're using offensive bulwark here, and the main reason we're using offensive bulwark here is so we get our second shield throw for our super, so that we can continue to extend that duration out for our super. We can continue to as you can see right here, just mow through huge waves of enemies and take care of the adds while our allies deal heavy damage to the boss, really untouched for the most part. But swapping those fragments and getting that overshield will help you with your grenade regen and just continue to spread that weaken, volatile, and suppression around to basically anybody around and kind of giving you a faux collective obligation. Alright Guardians, and that's going to have to be all from me for now. Let's go ahead down below this video, absolutely obliterate that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed any of these builds here, and let me know in the comment section down below which build you are most excited to use. And until next time Guardians, be without form, swift as lightning.